It's time for another edition of Citizen Watch with Casey Steed, Robert
Hello.
the Velvet Tomasetti.
The Velvet.
The most
Right, Robert.
dangerous, the Velvet Sledgehammer, the most dangerous man in Merced.
Yeah, you had to say that, didn't you? My life isn't conflicted enough. I got to hear that.
Anyway, welcome to the Tuesday night edition of Citizen Watch.
January
14th.
today.
14th. 1-4.
Yeah.
Yep. So Casey's still joining us via the telephone from beautiful Oklahoma. What is the Oklahoma State?
Well, it's a beautiful state. We call this flyover country here. You know,
Yeah.
you hear that term, and what it means is people just kind of forget about us here in the Midwest. They think we don't count. But
What's the state motto there?
I don't know. I do not know. I know it's probably fracking right now. There's more work here than you can shake a stick out. Our unemployment rate is hovering at a 5%, which is enviable for anywhere. But no, we're reporting to you live via the phone. At least I'm not in the studio. Steve, I think, is feeling better today.
I am. Thank goodness, boy. I didn't think I was going to make it there for a while.
We don't have the smell of Vicks Vapor Rub in the studio.
I will tell you this. If you're listening right now and you have not gotten a flu shot, I would highly recommend that you get a flu shot because it's worth the $20 or whatever it costs to get that taken care of.
You know what I think? I think you're all wussies.
Shut up.
I remember George Carlin saying, "Oh no, I'm being serious." I was talking to a doctor the other day who told me the real reason that people are getting sick is that we have this love affair with antibacterial soap. And what we do is we have a tendency to destroy our immune system because we want everything super clean. And like Carlin used to say in his comedy routine, my body needs germs to practice on. And, you know, I'm going to be honest, I don't get sick. I get my bugaboo, which I get my black dog days, which everybody knows about. And every now and then I get my allergies and I'm done. I wish I could get the flu one day where everybody kisses my rumpus and goes, "Oh, you feel okay."
Well, no one kissed my rumpus.
You're lying. I had to give you a hug. You were over here. Spitting and mucusing.
I had to keep reminding people that I had the flu. It was like,
Yeah.
you know,
Oh, what? Your big red nose looking like Bozo the Clown and crying didn't give him a
There was a couple
hint?
nights there where my throat was so gnarly that I couldn't swallow. I couldn't breathe.
We don't want to know that.
I mean, it was nuts, man. That's what I'm saying. If you haven't gotten a flu shot, go get one.
Robert's right about antibacterial soap. They've proven that, you know, you do need a few germs in your gut to live. And this is
Remember,
why we
you know,
go
let me
down
ask
to
you this.
Other
You know,
countries and
yeah, here's something that I laugh at is, you know, we have these foodborne illnesses, you know, and it's always middle-aged people. It's never kids. And why isn't it kids? Because kids eat dirt, snots. They pick the gum off underneath the tables. They drop their cookies on the ground, and they sit there and wipe dirt all over it, and they eat it. And, you know, I remember that as a kid, man. It was like the 5-second rule. It was like the 3-minute rule. But anyways, hey, guess whose birthday it is today?
I knew a kid that used to eat cat litter or cat poop out of the cat box, and they used to call it kitty roca. That's pretty disgusting. So he didn't die. And,
Hey, no. Hey, guess whose birthday it is today?
Who?
LL Cool J. So we're hip. He's 46 today. Hey, you know what I saw? I didn't see the Golden Globes, but I'm looking at a picture. And you know what? Tina Fey is hot.
Yeah, she is. She's an attractive lady.
She's a very attractive lady.
Tina Fey is very nice. When she played Sarah Palin, I think that was one of the things that brought her to success. You know, one just quick little trivia thing about hand sanitizer. A lot of people don't realize that that's damn near pure alcohol.
Of course it is.
I worked at Merced Hospital in San Diego for many years doing electrical work, and they had problems with the transients coming in, stealing the sanitizer,
and then drinking it.
Are you kidding me?
No. Hey,
here's you loaded, Steve. It's like I think it's better than
here's a funny story.
40 proof booze.
Here's a funny story. This is stupid as stupid gets. I'm at Chase Bank down here in Merced, and I'm talking to the branch manager, and I'm telling him about the antibacterial soap because what do? They have it on their doorway as you're leaving, right? Because you handled dirty money. So, anyways, the guy goes, I said, you know, it's I go, you know, antibacterial soap is so bad for you, and da-da-da-da-da, my body needs germs to practice on. He goes, yeah, you know, but who uses it the most is kids. I go, kids, they're using it as a toy. They go over there and they go get the foam and they play with it and they smell it. And then guess what happens? They ingest it because they don't clean their hands and they got all that excess on there. And then they get in the car and go straight to the Happy Meal.
Yeah, before we get into the local stuff, either one of you want to throw your 2 cents in about this Bridgegate with Christie?
Oh,
I honestly.
Well, the local, the national media is latched onto that like a tick on a hound dog.
Amen.
I think that he just, they're trying to make political fodder. I always say they only throw rocks at the lead dog, and Chris Christie is the lead dog over there in New Jersey. He's in a heavily Democratic state.
You're full of crap.
Pension reform, union reform.
No, wait a minute.
There
are times when they throw rocks at knuckleheads, okay? We're saying it because we're Republicans and Christie's a Republican, but let's be honest. Come on. Whenever there's any kind of scandal, look when they were throwing rocks at Obama. Obama's not the lead dog. He's kind of a knucklehead.
But do you think there's any substance to the allegations?
Probably is.
Do you think they actually closed down the George Washington Bridge as political retribution?
If Christie knew about it, he's political toast. He's distanced himself from it. It was his age. Now, you can say that he should have known about it, but quite frankly, that's like saying the supervisors should know about everything that all their employees done, and we obviously know they don't. Hendrickson's out there giving $500,000 away. But what it is if he had something directly involved in it, he's toast. If not, he'll survive this little scandal.
Well, here's the deal. He was a slam dunk. He's a Republican in a Democratic area, and it was a landslide for his reelection. I think that the Democratic Party sees him with a big bullseye, and it's a big bullseye if you've ever seen Mr. Christie.
Yeah, it's a huge one.
It's huge. And it almost reminds me of the Target sign. I mean, it's that big. Anyways, but, I think they look at him as being a front runner for possibilities of higher, and so they're trying to attack him and chop him down while he's...
but in a different sense, how pervasive do you think this political pettiness is in American politics?
It happens in our county all the time.
Yep.
All the time. That kind of backstabbing, that kind of, it's one of the 7 deadly sins I always talk about, and one of them is wrath. And wrath doesn't mean anger. Wrath means to get even with your opponents.
Yeah, revenge.
Perceived opponents. And trust me, we have a lot of wrath going on in Merced County.
We have a lot of wrath in the state, and you know what I don't like, and what is annoying to me is because the Democrats have a supermajority, and I know this is more Tea Party stuff than what we're used to talking about, but when you get all this stuff going on, and they're up in Sacramento all glad-handing each other, they're all Democrats. And so what they do is they come around and they tell you how wonderful Brown is, and oh my God, everything's great. But the point of the matter is the stuff, it's great when he comes out with the rhetoric, and then when the proof is in the pudding, we find oops, and they never come out with that, because I'm reading.
Lost its collective mind when they reelected Governor Moonbeam for the 3rd term.
Well,
I just can't believe.
Well, here's things that I'm having a problem with.
He's supposed to be a shoo-in for the 4th term case.
He probably is.
No problem. He will get elected. All of the flower children, all of the love children that grew up that are now the electorate think this guy walks on water. He has taken this state down to the road of ruin.
Well,
again, not addressing all the unfunded liability, wanting to use cap and trade money for his little Brown Streak Express. The Legislative Analysis Office came out today and said that it's highly barely legal, and it does no purpose for cap and trade. So this guy is whacked out.
What he's using is he's using fuzzy math. And what they do is they move money from here to here to plug a gap, make it look good, and then when they move it back, like, for example, CalPers posted a 16% gain. I'll talk about this in a little bit. But what they're saying is, oh, my God, look how great it is. But then in the article it says, yeah, but CalPers is still in a huge financial hole. Okay.
He's not addressing the facts. Just one more thing about Christie. A lot of Republicans don't like Christie. You remember Hurricane Sandy when he shook hands with Obama, the Tea Party, and these more radical groups? They were up in arms. How can you? And this is where we need some bipartisanship, some cooperation. This is what we're lacking up in Washington. And I'm really sad to see that the media picking on Chris Christie like this.
I thought the media.
I'll be very after him for ads that he put out after Hurricane Sandy to lure people back to the Jersey Shore, and he used his family. And they're saying that was misappropriation of funds. So they're, again, trying to throw every rock they can at this guy to get him off the track. Because who do they have to put up? Hillary Clinton?
Well, here's the deal I have a problem with when you talk about that is, look, he's shaking hands with the President of the United States. What are you supposed to do? Sit there and go, hey.
Exactly.
Okay. And it's just like, and I was against this too. I don't like the Republicans were attacking Obama for shaking hands with some tyrant in the Middle East. I forgot it was it wasn't the Middle East. It was in South Africa. Okay. okay, some guy from Cuba, he shook hands with
Raul Castro.
Right, and he was
Raul Castro's hand.
Exactly. He shook his hand and was cordial with the guy. And here's the Republicans railing at, oh my God, how dare he? You know, you're like, really? You know, you're just picking a fight to pick a fight. Here's something, though, that really makes your point, Casey. I was reading I hope I say this right. Triwheeler. Okay, he or she, I'm sorry, I don't know if Pat is a male or a female, I'm sorry. But on Perspectives today, wrote California's drought crisis needs attention. And it goes through and talks about declaring a state of emergency for the drought. But what I thought is in the bottom it says, how much time do Brown and Costa need to get these things done? Time is running out. It's time that Brown and Costa redirect their thoughts from fish, ferry shrimp, speedy choo-choo trains, and government-run healthcare and pay more attention to the state's job creator, agriculture. And I'm totally for Mr. or Ms. I'm very sorry, Pat Triwheeler, and what they say. I think it's true. It's exactly this. You know, we're looking at toys and all this kind of stuff, except where's the agriculture? I'm sorry, but I see bumper stickers that say, you know, without where water flows, food grows, and it's absolutely correct. And now what you're going to do?
1 inch of rain. We should have had 5 inches by now. Folks.
But here's the point.
Big.
But here's the problem too: is Jim DiMartini up in Modesto? He was saying that we should have addressed this 5-6 years ago. And the problem that we're having is always, you know, you never miss your water till your well runs dry, and that's exactly what's happening. And you think the price of beef soared? You wait till you see all your crops in California soar, because how are the farmers gonna make it grow with no rain and no water?
Yeah, in case
I can tell you firsthand, being out here in Oklahoma, they've culled the herds over 60%. If anybody's been to the supermarket, you can't find a pound of ground beef less than $2.99 that you'd want to eat that's not full of fat. And you move up to the higher cuts of meat, you're talking $15 a pound, folks.
Yep.
And that's going to happen in the Central Valley, which is the breadbasket of America. And Robert's exactly right. We poop, you know, we're worried again, like a train. We're worried about, you know, bilingual restrooms. We're worried about, you know, all of these feel good things to the liberals. And meanwhile, the state's going to heck.
Yeah, it's called the narrow effect. It's fiddling with projects to distract from the serious issues.
Well,
you know, Nero fiddled while Rome burned.
Yeah.
You know, we're fiddling while California's burning because we don't have any water. We have a serious water crisis coming our way.
Well,
exactly.
You got the Hostettlers of the world, you know, and not to pick on Mr. Hostetler, but there in Merced County, he's put in a lot of orchards lately. Now, he bought a lot of land to put in pads for houses. That didn't quite work out after 2008. So he still has all this land. So we went to high-value agriculture in almonds. And I don't belittle him for doing that. I'd probably do the same thing. But we need to have some ground well regulations in place. The supervisors need to, you know, break suction up there on the third floor and get out and see what's really happening. Because up in Modesto, they're facing lawsuits now over all of these deep ag wells they've put in.
I think
you can't suck the aquifer dry. We've had Schweigert in. We've had Dennis Pulaski. Our geology does not allow us to suck the aquifer dry. It will not replenish itself.
And I think the city of Atwater is the city of Merced actually is getting ready to drill another well.
Yes, they are. Well, they spent $400,000 to drill a test well, and that's just to drill a bigger well. These wells cost millions of dollars to dig, folks. You're talking $100, $150 a foot for a residential well. You talk a big commercial well like that, you're talking thousands of dollars a foot. And we just don't have the water. That's the problem.
And the aquifer sinking. That's going to be ultimately going to be the problem when people that have had wells and been able to get water to the surface for generations are now having to go another 100 or 200, 300 feet deeper.
Well, how about this, you guys? You know, we talk about the agricultural people, but what about people who live on 1 and 2 acre tracts in Atwater that use wells? They don't get piped water in.
Nope, and they use it judiciously. I mean, they do not use it judiciously. Those guys, I know exactly some areas you're talking about, and they use water like there's no issue with it.
Well, here's what I want to know. I remember in the 70s when there was a drought, I remember watching a thing about the surfers, the Z-Boys, the Zephyr Boys, and they started with their skateboarding in empty pools because Southern California put a moratorium on pools. Yeah. Why are we allowing Hollywood's elite or everybody in L.A.? I mean, I flew over L.A. and all you see is blue dots, okay, is everybody's pools. I mean, Really? You need a pool when people up in Northern California need, I mean, hey.
Yep. Go to the Owens Valley, where it's literally a dust bowl. The air is so polluted there of the blowing dust over what used to be Mono Lake, those areas where the water was diverted. There was a great movie called Chinatown. Everybody should watch it.
Yep.
It's one of those
Okay. It's like Mark Twain said. It's like Mark Twain said, whiskey's for drinking, water in California is for fighting over. And boy, the fight is just beginning because it is going to get ugly. Guys, time for our first break. You're listening to Citizen Watch here on this beautiful Tuesday evening in downtown Merced. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Citizen Watch with your hosts, Mr. Casey Steed, coming to us live and in color from beautiful Oklahoma.
He's in his car, actually.
That's right.
He's eating popcorn for breakfast.
Casey's living the consequences of lack of water. He's in that paradigm right now, and I think it's quite scary. And I know we kind of talked about that in the first segment. We won't go there again. But, folks, this water thing is becoming a serious issue here in the Central Valley. And you better get out and do the family rain dance. Yeah, because if we have another dry season,
March miracle like we had back in the 90s,
amen.
We were looking really dry.
And
actually, last year we were looking at reduced deliveries from MID, and we had a little help in May, but it can't come soon enough, folks.
And if we do get that March miracle, or even February March miracle, let's pray to God that we've been having enough foresight to catch the water. Because we've had Dennis Falaskian from the Panoche Water District talk about how, there's really not a water shortage if we would just be wiser about the way we gather it when it does rain.
Yes.
Exactly right.
So, anyway.
It runs right out to the ocean. But, Robert, you had an interesting observation about CalPers.
I did.
Robert, you with us over there, buddy?
Oh, yeah. Hello.
He's in deep thought right now.
I was in deep thought. Well, I'm reading this because it's, I've told people this all the time, agenda. What's the agenda? I've told people all the time, don't read just blurps in the newspaper. And here's one that's really huge because this is what's going to happen. I'm going to call it here first. CalPers posts 16.2% gains, best in a decade. Okay.
Can I make a comment on that real quick? And you correct me if I'm wrong, Robert.
You're wrong.
Because you know a lot more about finances than I do.
Okay, go ahead.
But, one of the things we've talked about here several times in the past is the quantitative easing and the fact that the U.S. government has been pumping about $1 trillion a year into the economy. Mm-hmm. And they've been the majority of that pump has been going into the stock market, right, which has caused the stock market to go ballistic, which causes shareholders of stocks to get their value inflated because the quantitative easing has been pumping this money into the stock market.
They've been buying bonds, yeah.
Right. So basically this run-up in the stock market, which is allowing these huge 16, 17% gains in somebody like CalPers because they're getting they're getting returns on their money at a higher rate now because the share prices are going up because the government's pumping in all this money. Am I on the right track so far?
It's a house of cards.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So right now when you listen to Robert talk about how CalPers is in a better situation, it's basically based on this fictional gain in the economy that's been created by quantitative easing at the federal level.
Well, here it's real simple. First of all, unemployment is still pretty much up there.
Yep.
Okay, so what exactly is happening? Okay, you're watching a lot of the stocks be cash rich because they don't want to spend any money because they don't know about this healthcare reform or anything like that. But the problem that you're running into that I see with the CalPers is in 2012, they got 13% interest. In 2013, they got 16.2. Now, everybody go pat CalPers on the back for posting 16.2, but the stock market, I believe, actually earned somewhere close to 30%. So if you got 30, okay, if the market got 30, CalPers only got 16.2. So, what pulled it down a little bit. But here's the thing that I'm having a problem is CalPers is in still a huge financial hole, largely the result of catastrophic losses suffered during the 2008 market crash. Okay, so even with 30% or 16% and 13% last year, it's still nowhere near what they need it to be. They say to pump more money into the system, the governing board will consider an increase in contribution rates next month. So in other words, what's going to happen is the city's tax bill for CalPers is going to be huge because not only do you have to make up for the catastrophic loss of 2008, you're also going to have to do what? You're going to have to increase your contributions. Now, prognosticators have stated that the market's going to probably be relatively flat. Okay, you got your big run up, now it's going to be flat.
And they're easing the quantitative easing. They're taking the foot off the gas on that.
Exactly. So what you're going to see is you're going to see flat. So, CalPers is in a big hole. Okay, and the situation is, what happened to Proposition 30 money? Is it being poured in the CalPers? Is it getting them out of the hole? Because that's what was happening. We were told Proposition 30 was supposed to save the schools. And then all of a sudden they said, well, we need to pay back our pension costs. Okay. Mm-hmm. Okay. So what is Proposition 30 money? Because don't take this personal. Every school board official wants more money for the schools. Now, I'm sorry, but you get so much money. Work with what you have. Now, if your finances are in a wreck, then you're paying people too much money. There is no reason an administrator for a school system, with 4 or 5 schools should be making $200,000, $180,000. I mean, Mr. Scambray, I heard, makes over $190,000 a year. Okay.
You mean the 2-bit schoolyard bully Scambray?
No, wait. No. We're on the 2-bit radio show. Now, for those that you didn't listen, last week I was at the school board thing, and Mr. Scambray and I had some words, and his first name is Vincent, and I called him Vinny. My brother's Vinny. Everybody I know is Vinny. So me, just being the dumb shit I was, I said, "Hi, Vinny, what's up?" And he went nuts. And I said, he said, "Don't talk to me like that. How dare you?" And I said, "Well, I've been
He challenged you to a fight, didn't he?
Well, he didn't challenge me to a fight. He basically said, you want a piece of me? That kind of stuff. But anyways.
Yeah, want a piece of me? Started taking off his coat. That's what a schoolyard bully does. If it would have been during school hours, he might have been before the principal.
Quit making an embarrassing situation worse. Okay? I mean, it's like where I go, trouble. I feel like Haley Mills in that movie, where angels go, trouble follows. And I got this.
He reminds me of Clear and Present Danger with Harrison Ford, when Harrison Ford confronts the president and he says, "Don't talk to me like some junkyard dog," And I think people that get offended like that, they've got something to hide.
Well, it's not that. It's my father always told me, and this is my problem with the gangbangers out here in California, is they demand respect. And that's something Mr. Scambray...
to get it, brother.
Of course.
You have to earn it.
You have to earn it. And Mr. Scambray, I'm sorry, but you have not earned my respect, because there's a lot of things going on in Merced Union High School District that I'd like to talk about and investigate and kind of look into. My whole start with Mr. Scambray was basically simply, I do retirement investing. I do retirement consulting. I have to go through a maze of things to get through to a school. But yet his wife, who is a retirement consultant also, she doesn't have to do that. And I personally think it's a conflict of interest. He may disagree.
What do you mean she shouldn't have to do that? I mean, she has him in with the school already?
Yeah. I met her at a store. She gave me her card, and it says that she said, "I'm an insurance agent, and I do 403Bs, which is the investment vehicle for school teachers." It's actually what 403B is actually a salary reduction plan. It lowers the salary of a school teacher so the tax bite's lower.
You remember back in the 80s with Dana Carvey, I think his name was, on Saturday Night Live?
Yeah.
The church lady, when he said, "How convenient."
Oh, yeah. How convenient. Isn't that interesting? Well, like I say, these 2-bit schoolyard bullies, they don't get their chest all puffed up and start taking their jacket off after a board meeting unless they feel a little threatened.
Well, he went crazy. He got mad. I stood there and laughed. I think that made him angrier, because I was like stunned that somebody would get all upset. I'm like, how did I know you don't like your first name? And then I was kind of a jackass. I did that.
No, not you, Robert.
Hey, that line in As Good as It Gets with Jack Nicholson, where he looks at the dog and he goes, "I didn't name you." That's what I did.
Well, some people would say that,
I didn't name you.
Robert's a little rough around the edges.
I am.
He may not be everybody's cup of tea, but I'll tell you what, Robert's an intelligent, smart individual, and anybody that says, well, he's a loose cannon, he's a little this, a little that. Hey, he's a cannon, and when good men say nothing, this is why we've got ourselves in the position we have, and we need people like Robert Tomasetti to ask the tough questions, approach people when they're not uncomfortable.
I'll tell you,
because we have too little of that right now, and that's why Merced is the armpit of the 58 counties. We have to look at we just had the school results come out again, not naming any specific school board members, like Robert said, you're all guilty of it. We have the dumbest kids coming out of California. I don't get it. And yet you want more money, more money, more money.
Well, here's the thing that makes me that I was. Thank you, Case. But the point of the matter to me is I first of all, I don't like political correctness. Okay, I was in the military for 6 years. I was in the military for 6 years, and I feel that I've earned the right to speak my piece. First Amendment, I don't curse. I'm not profane. I don't call you 7, 5, 4, 3, whatever, how many letters you want. But the point of the matter is, if you feel uncomfortable, then maybe you shouldn't be in the positions that you're in. If I make a comment or I make a criticism or a scrutiny of something you did, then instead of getting all butthurt, then maybe you should come on the show and say, hey, you know what? You're wrong. Now, CalPers is one of those. What's happening is they're going to try to increase the employer's contributions in order to cut this. And what it is like Steve has always said, it's death by 1,000 cuts. And here's another one where employers are going to feel the pain of CalPERS' mismanagement and the state of California. Why doesn't the state of California fix this instead of a choo-choo train to nowhere? Okay, right. Now I understand that money has to be allotted in certain ways, and that money goes over here, and money is allotted for this, and grant money can only be used for that. But my question is this. The state of California gives the education system a budget to work with. And why is it they blow through that budget every year? And then if they want more money, they throw a bond issue out there. Because, and they Susan Walsh, you're absolutely right. It is for the kids. But ma'am, I'm sorry to say, but a lot of your colleagues don't look at it that way. Maybe you think it's for the kids, and maybe your heart's in the right place. But there's a lot of people that look at me and say, I haven't had a pay raise. Where's my pay? Where's my pay? Where's my pay? Show me the money.
Where's the performance? Show me the performance. You know, we've heard from teachers, we won't throw them down out at the college, they have to teach the kids how to study for the first month. Now, it was good to see in the Sun Star where we have a program with Merced College where some of these kids, if they show the initiative, can take college classes in their last year of high school and whack off a year of college, which I think is a good thing.
Yeah, but you know what I was mostly impressed with, and I said I wanted to talk about it today, was Sequoia High School. And I don't have all the information. I forgot it at home, folks. I'm very sorry. But what happened with Sequoia, they did a presentation at the Merced Union High School District, and I think his name is, I'm doing this from memory, and if I get the names wrong, I apologize. Bob Marvulli, I know his name, but Bob is the vice principal out there, and the principal, I think, is Mr. Schneider. I might be Schroeder. I might be wrong. But anyways, Sequoia High School takes these kids, at-risk kids, and they put them through the mill. There's a young lady, had a wonderful program. Her name is Mrs. Turner. She's out there. She's teaching them, the girls, the women, real life situations, pregnancy, things like that. She said that she was from a dysfunctional family, and she knows what it's like firsthand. They have another gentleman out there. This guy looks like a linebacker. I swear to God. Or a lineman. He's huge. And he takes the kids to Corcoran Prison. And they do a scared straight with them, where they actually go out to Corcoran Prison and they show them, hey, your life path, this is what it's going to end up being. Now, to me, that's actually something that people should see or go through.
And invest in.
I went out to Torrin Johnson's office, who is, and I would love to see an article done by the Merced County Times on this. Torrin Johnson runs Yosemite High School. I went to the whole high school. There wasn't a cigarette butt. There wasn't any dirt. I was stunned. I went into that courtyard, and there's not a building with graffiti on it. Now, these are supposed to be the at-risk kids. They said those are the kids that are in the drug program. Those are the kids, and the kids were out there sitting on the benches, and they're talking to each other. You know, there was a couple out there that was just kind of a little romantic. But anyways, I went out there. Mr. Johnson was awesome. Okay. He is married to Ida Johnson, who is on the school board. Now, Torrin was very open. Hey, I said, sir, your office is in a building in 1938. How come you're not like Crookshank School asking for $10.4 million of upgrades? He said, right. I do with what I have, and I love what I'm doing. And that's the kind of man that I look at that's a public servant. I do what I can with what I have, and I love what I'm doing. He's got passion. He feels his pay is enough. He feels that his working environment is good enough. The problem is you get school teachers that don't think that. You get school teachers that think that the kids need to learn in a glass palace. I didn't work in a glass palace. I didn't care. All I cared about was his heat. Did I like the teacher? Did the teacher talk to me? And the problem is you get a lot of teachers that are in the education system that aren't there to teach. They're there to collect a paycheck.
That's right.
It's a great gig. I'm off 180 days a year. I get every holiday to man off. I get every vacation. I get every benefit package. I mean, come on, people. You're making an average of $60,000 a year.
Would transition to our supervisors. I read today where County Mental Health is renting 3 core office spaces there in Merced for the tune of $250,000 a year, when they have the old haunted house there, the old MCMC hospital, right next to County Mental Health. And we heard from Deidre Kelsey, well, maybe we can, move some of the people in there. Where was that thinking several years ago? Before you guys give yourself that big raise, hide behind the judge's robes, why don't you think outside the box a little bit?
Because
like
they've never been forced to.
It isn't their money.
Exactly
it isn't
right.
their money. They can just keep going to the well, drop that bucket down, hit the taxpayers with another, little 1 or 2%. Nobody will notice.
Let me ask you.
What do we get for it? What do we get?
Well, let me ask you that. What do we get? Here's an interesting article in the Perspective of Merced Sun-Star today. Page A5, it says, we need energy and ideas to cut poverty. It says, California's safety net programs kept 4 million residents, including 1 million children, out of poverty from 2009 to 2011. The idea
that's about from 1963 to now.
Well,
that's when the war on poverty was declared by Lyndon Johnson.
Right, but it says the idea that so many children are born into poverty in the wealthiest nation on earth is heartbreaking. Now, here's the problem. This is Barack Obama. Now, why doesn't Barack tell families that are on welfare and families that are on the system, families that are in this poverty, to kind of maybe curtail your sexual habits a little bit? Okay.
No, don't start talking about unwed mothers, teenage pregnancy rates. You can't legislate that. You got to give them restrooms depending on how they feel that day.
But here's what this leads to. Okay, it says that Obama pushed for promise zones. Okay, areas in some of the poorest communities where job, housing, education, and law enforcement would be targeted.
One of them's here in Oklahoma, the Choctaw Nation, and guess where the other one is? Los Angeles.
Now, wait a minute. Didn't we have an enterprise zone? Is this how Magic Johnson became a gazillionaire? Because what happened is Magic Johnson, this is a trivia question for all you business trivia guys. Magic Johnson is the only man to own a Starbucks franchise. He owned several. He was given an enterprise zone where he put up movie theaters. I hate to tell you this, people, but Los Angeles, California is probably one of the wealthiest areas of California and yet one of the poorest. So what's going on down in L.A.? Okay, now to go and give more money to Los Angeles and the Hollywood elite and all those Democrats is disheartening. Look at the Central Valley. Look at Madera. Look at Merced. How come we don't get any enterprise money?
Because we don't have the people with the gumption to get in there for us and demand that we get things. And they haven't had to, because they've never been held accountable. And I think that's what our onus is here at KYOS, is we are finally starting to shine a light on the leaders in our communities and the fact that they've been sitting around doing relatively nothing for generations. And we are bearing the brunt of the results of that now as we sit here, as everybody else starts to move forward or is moving forward, and we're stuck. And
of course. I mean, you look at three things. Merced at one point was the foreclosure capital of the world. Merced is last in education in terms of high school kids and going to college. Or, excuse me, I think it was last in education, and I'm looking at the board, and we took it down. But anyways, I think it was the last in amount of people that we have that have a college education degree, in our population.
Highest poverty rate.
Lowest per capita
worst
income.
And high in crime. And Marco Rubio says, he proposes to give federal money to states in the form of block grants so they can figure out how to reduce poverty. You know how you reduce poverty, people? Jobs. Mr. Hendrickson, jobs. You cut poverty by getting
Mr.
jobs.
There's a lot to all you Marges, to all you people against a truck going down the highway. We needed those 1,200 jobs. Thanks for screwing that up.
Absolutely.
Well, the situation.
But how you can show your face, Mr. Stockard?
Well, what I'm thinking is the cut in poverty is going to be a Democratic boon, because I think I know exactly what they're going to do. They're going to look at all the people that don't have jobs, don't want jobs, all living in sections of Merced that are low income, and they're going to give them more money.
Right, but
this is what the nutty theory you hear about extending the unemployment benefits. Give them more benefits, it's going to create jobs. Huh?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
What kind of logic is that?
There is no logic. It's I want votes.
We got to take another break, but before we do, you just heard a long list of things that Merced has been deficient in for many years now. Yet the incumbency rate is very high. We keep re-electing the same people.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to talk about that. I think this sheriff's race is very interesting and what's happening with the people coming out of the woodwork. But let's take a break. We appreciate everybody listening to KYOS AM 1480.
Okay, we're back. Hey. Here
we are.
Dun-dun-dun.
Guys, we got a little
Judge Wapner.
We got a little long-winded on that last segment, so this one's going to have to...
Sorry, I get on these rants. I got to get a word in edgewise or Robert will take the show over. He is the most dangerous man in Merced County.
No, I'm not.
Before we went to the break, though, we were talking about the incumbency and the fact that we just listed a lot of things that Merced is, if not dead last in the entire state of California, very close to.
Right.
Yet we keep re-electing the same individuals year after year after year.
Exactly, but it's not...
And giving them raises.
And giving them raises.
Give more money.
Absolutely.
Come on.
The thing that I have a problem with is parents, okay? And real quick, I'm going to just say this, is Joel Johnson wrote an article. He's from Winton. He wrote a perspective in Thursday, January 2nd section, and it's called Parents Don't Blame the Video Games. Now, here's the guy. Now, he probably has a great child, okay? But he's saying that, the topic of video games as a cause of violence is brought up a lot because of the recent school shootings. Many parents wondering whether it's safe to buy video games because of the content compared to games of 25 years ago. Okay, you can point to studies that say video game violence influences teens and kids, lead to crime, drugs, or school shootings. Well, if you got studies, Mr. Johnson, that show this, okay, they're a little more educated than you or I. And just because our child is different and our child, doesn't do that, doesn't mean that the studies aren't correct. Okay, you saw, what was it, Columbine, where they had the long leather coats to mimic Matrix? Huh?
Trenchcoat Mafia, they call themselves.
Yeah, but wasn't it to mimic Matrix and Keanu Reeves in Matrix with the long jackets where they got the guns underneath? Yes. Okay, so, Mr. Johnson, maybe you got to look at that. He says that there's a pretty... Now, this is dumb. Sorry, sir. Says this is a pretty important detail because when you give that cashier your ID, okay, it says the cashier asks for ID, and it's a pretty good important detail because when you give the cashier your ID, it gives the message that you're perfectly content with your child playing a game rated mature. But a lot of people don't. A lot of people just give their kids toys to shut them up.
Right.
That's not parenting.
Robert, you hit on it earlier. You talked about pregnancy rates and, people keeping their legs closed or their pants zipped up. And it really gets back to the family. We've had a complete breakdown of the family unit. And this is what leads to a lot of our social ills. So when you talk about a war on poverty or a war on education, this is where it starts. It starts at home. You're not going to legislate that from Sacramento or Washington, D.C.
I agree. And, and there's two facets to that, because I think one of the facets is obviously, people find themselves in a dynamic where, having the father be part of the family and having, this burden be throwing onto the single mother, which is usually the case, right. It's one thing, that, they leave their seat and they run off, or they get incarcerated, or they're not gainfully employed to the point where they can support a family. But there's also another facet of this where I think in society we've gotten to the point now where even women with means have gotten to the point where they think they don't need a man. They don't need a father in the house, that they can do it all by themselves, that, having the father come and visit every other weekend is sufficient for those children to grow up in an environment like that.
Where's the male
and
figure?
That, I think, in a bigger context is where we've gone way off the scale.
We have, and if you think these children are unsophisticated, they know how to play these parents like a Stradivarius.
Well, let me tell you, real quick.
They know how to play mom against dad,
dad
against mom, and they get exactly what they want.
Did you ever go to Save Martin
in the house?
And I would argue that a father's influence is every single bit as important on a child as a mother's influence is.
It's like
and
a teeter-totter.
As a society, women have forgotten that. They think they can be both. And you know what? You can't.
Well,
there's one thing you can't.
This is what we've seen in the African-American community. There's been study after study after study done. If you quote it now, you're called racist. You're called, you don't understand, but it's been proven, folks. Lack of a male influence has had detrimental effects to that whole category of people.
Well, here's something.
But I would argue that it's had an equally detrimental effect to affluent Caucasian children.
Here's
whose mothers think that they can do it all.
Started there, and now it's gone to all sectors of society. You're exactly right, Steve.
There's an article, not an article, it's a book called Bias by Bernard Goldberg. And Bernard Goldberg talks about a big, huge problem in America that nobody talks about, and that's the latchkey kids. And what he says really quickly is that a lot of mothers have forgotten when they have a child that their first job is a mother. And what we do is we throw them in preschool and we let everybody else take care of our kids because we're too busy working. He says there's a good chunk of people that really don't need the two incomes. But because, my friend Sally has a BMW, I need one too. So what do? They go into the workforce, which they have every right to do. Okay. Right. And then what do? They get the BMW and the beautiful bling. And what happens to the kids? The kids are on the street looking for what?
All that glitters is not gold. But even and one of the things I've noticed here in town is the gangs. The gangs, we hear from Sam Rangel, some of the folks, and, they're lacking the family. And they turn to the gangs for that family that they don't have. And one of the things I've noticed is with the new sheriff in town, or let's put it this way, with the old sheriff gone, things are becoming a little different. And I find it interesting how we've had, I think, 5 or 6 candidates now that have come out of the woodwork to run for Sheriff Pazin's position, whereas if he would have stayed in the saddle, I don't think anybody would have came out. Now, I find it interesting how these candidates are coming out and saying, we need to change things. AB 109 is a failure. We need to commit resources in different areas. We had one candidate say he's going to give more money to the frontline troops. Well, if things were going so well and nobody was going to stand up against the incumbent had he stayed, what does that tell you? What it tells me is things are dysfunctional. Some people just need to get out of the way. And I'm not saying specifically Sheriff Pazin. I'm going a little bit higher up on there on the 3rd floor because we heard Deidre Kelsey say, what was the option? Well, there's an election every 4 years. Well, I think we need to look at that a little harder.
Well, she's in a great spot because she's in a part of her territory is lower income, and I heard she's a wealthy young lady that owns a ranch that doesn't need the money. So she's a little more wealthy.
Good. Step out, go tend your ranch and let somebody else have a try. You've been sitting on that chair for 20+ years, and nothing's.
Hey, O'Banion, who's running against O'Banion?
No one yet.
Yeah, 20 years in the saddle. You telling me the west side is the best side? They have no water. They have they're a hit on the foreclosure crisis. Well, what have we done over there? But yet we keep electing these people. Now, if Jerry were to retire at 66, would somebody else take his place? Of course they would. A fresh set of eyes is what we need, folks. A fresh set of eyes.
And we're imploring the listeners of this program. If you think you're someone that can make that change, please throw your hat in the ring.
I'll tell you why I had this discussion a while ago about term limits. And I think why I like term limits is I'm going to be very honest, folks. I don't trust you to do the right thing and to vote for the right people or vote at all. I think, no, I'm being serious. When you look at the rates, I mean, come on. There are people in third world countries that will die and give their life and put their life on the line to vote. And what do? My vote doesn't count. And then what do?
That's so untrue, people. That is so untrue. You can become a city council member here that your vote doesn't count.
Oh, yeah.
Your vote counts.
I thought you were saying what I said was untrue.
And if you look at the election results over the last few elections we've had, it only takes 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 people to get into office here. There's 220,000 people in this county.
Right.
If there is a silent majority out there that could take control of things here. We can take control.
Anarchy, mutiny.
No,
I hear
it's not. It's through a peaceful election process is the way it's done. But if we mobilize and we do the right thing and we vote for candidates that have their hearts in the right place and we know that they have the integrity necessary in order to get the job done that we need them to do, we can make changes here.
But here's why I think term limits are good. You get a guy like Jerry. I'm not going to say Jerry O'Bannon because I think he's a nice man. But you get a guy.
They're all nice. Right. They're all nice, Robert.
Right.
How capable are they?
No, I'm not going to criticize that because I don't really know. But what I'm saying is I don't like if I say something that I'm a bad guy and you don't like me.
We know the results.
Let me look at
the results.
Let me put it to you this way. You got Joe Smith that's running for office. He's been in office for 20 years. Joe Smith is beholden to the people that got him there. Joe Smith has made a trade with the devil sometimes, and that is counterproductive. That's why people who've been for 20 and 30 years need to go.
Right. We need a do-over, people.
Yeah, we do. Hey, how much time we got left, Steve?
About a minute.
Now, I just want to say one thing that really bothered me. I was looking at a picture in the paper in Anbar province over in Fallujah in Iraq, and they showed all of these militants sitting on top of one of our MRAP vehicles that they had taken over from the Iraqi army. As you probably called in the news, Fallujah has now fallen back to the Al-Qaeda. They call themselves something new now. I think this is so disheartening to the men and women who gave their lives, to the mothers and fathers who lost their children, to the wives that lost their husbands. For what? Is this another Vietnam? Is this something that, where are our priorities? I know we don't usually talk about national stuff, but that picture just sickened me.
Well, we got
all of this money, all of this progress has gone for naught.
Well, like I said, you got Mel Levy, who's a 3-time server in the Middle East that's going to run for Congress, and
go after Jim Costa's spot, and we'd like to have him on the show.
Yeah, because I'd like to know what he thinks about it.
Marv Levy's running after Jim Costa's spot.
Mel Levy.
Mel Levy.
Yeah. Mel Levy. He's a decorated war veteran, and I would
graduate of West Point.
Get him in and ask him about this, because this is it's so disheartening. We talk about the right to vote, what we try to impose on other lands, the freedoms we bring, and yet it seems like it's just thrown back.
I don't know. I just have
it's not appreciated.
I have a feeling deep down in my heart that we're going to have some fun this November. I think we're going to be able to shake things up here.
Well, we have a primary in June, so it's going to be fun all year, folks, and we encourage you to stay tuned to Citizen Watch with Steve Colvard, who's feeling better, Robert, the Velvet Sledgehammer Tomasetti, the most dangerous man in Merced County, and I'm Casey Speed in Flyover Country. I'll be back in the saddle soon, folks.
Do me a favor.
Better voice quality, but we encourage you to listen to 1480 AM KYOS. We're on the web. We're on YouTube.
Okay. Stop calling me the Velvet. Stop saying I'm dangerous, because then people aren't going to want to talk to me. I'll lose all my friends. Then I'll have to get my attorneys involved. Slander.
We only say that in a loving way.
That's right.
Good night, Mrs. Calabash, wherever you are.
Good night, folks.